In today's tutorial, you're going to learn how to create a mood board. So you're going to need a mood board demo PDF file, which you can find under your course documents. And this file that you can see on your screen has step-by-step instructions on how to create the demo mood board. And then you will be able to use the same steps in order to create your own original mood board. Next, you're going to need Moodboard Elements zip folder, which you can download from your Blackboard. So when you download it, it's going to look like a little square with a zipper on it. So you're not going to be able to open your JPEGs directly from there, but instead what you have to do is double click on the icon, and then you will see a little folder with the same name called Moodboard Elements. So that folder you're going to be able to open and see all the JPEGs inside that you're going to need in order to create the demo mood board. So when we start creating the demo mood board, you're not going to be able to open or get these files from the zipped folder. You're going to have to use the unzipped folder in order to access these JPEGs. Also, I want you to have a look at the finished demo. So the finished demo is going to look more or less like this, and this demo will guide you through steps that you're going to use once you start working on your own inspiration boards. So this is what we're going to use as a reference in terms of the placement and the colors, etc. So the rest of the JPEGs that you can see are going to be used to create the demo mood board. So let's begin. First, you're going to just start a new file, and it's going to be print letter size. And right now I just want to have a look at different text tool options before we begin working on the actual mood board. So let's just have a look and see what are all these different text tools and what do they do. So the first one is the regular text tool. So if you just click on the type tool, you click once, and then it's going to create one line of text for you. And then you can select, using the type tool, any of the letters, and that is going to allow you to change the fill. For example, I can have different color for my fill. It's also going to allow you to, again, use the text tool, select certain letters, and then you can go to type. You can change the size. You can also change the stroke color. So let's say I want to have black fill and pink stroke color, then I can do that. Again, if you go in, you can also go to type, font. You can change the font like this, and that allows you to play around with the text, change the fill, stroke, font, font size, and font type. Another way you can use this tool is by actually clicking and dragging. So what I'm going to do now is define a text box. So instead of just clicking, this time I'm going to use the same tool, which is the first one, type tool, but this time I'm going to click and drag. So clicking and dragging gives me a text box inside of which I can then type my words. So I'm still using the same tool, but this time I clicked and dragged in order to create a text box, and then I'm able to put my text inside. And then again, if you just click, it's just going to give you one straight line, and the only way to go down is to hit return, and then you can go down. Okay, so that is the first one, the regular type tool. The second one you see is the area type tool. So this allows you to type inside of a specific shape. So it can be a star, it could be an ellipse, you could even draw your own shape. But let's say if I did an ellipse, any color, any fill, any stroke, it doesn't really matter. And then if I clicked on the second tool, which is the area type tool, then I can then click on top, and then you can already see the preview. The text is put inside of that specific shape. So you would just have to click on the edge on top and then start typing your words inside of that shape. The third one is called type on a path. So in order to do that, you first need a path. So I can create, let's say, a circle. It actually doesn't matter fill or stroke that you have on that circle. And then you would use the third one, which is type on a path. You would click once, and then you can type along that path. Another example would be if I used a pencil tool, and if I drew a line, I can actually also type along that line. So if I click on type on path, I could click at the beginning of the path, and then I can type along the path. So you can use these three tools when you work on your mood board. The other thing to be aware of is that if you go to Window, Type, Character, then you're going to see, so Window, Type, Character, you're then going to see all the options you have. So the font size, distance between the letters, distance between the lines, distance between the individual words, and also you can change here the font, different fonts you want, as well as the size, and also whether they're regular or bold. So all of that is under Window, Type, Character. And additionally, there is also the vertical type tool, vertical area type tool, vertical type on path tool as well. So they're the same thing as the first three tools that I showed you, except the text would go vertically. So for example, if I click on this one, then I can say hello, but the text would type vertically. So that's kind of all you need to know in terms of the font right now. However, when you save your file with a specific font, if you reopen it, you might lose your font if that specific computer doesn't have that font installed. So what you can do is outline text. So this way the text is turned into an object, and that way you're not going to lose your font. So let me just give you one example of this. So if I say hello, and if I go to Type, Create Outlines, then I will see that my text cannot be edited anymore, so I can't change the spelling, but the text has now become just a collection of objects. So if I use the white arrow, I can actually see all the points and I can move them. So this allows you to play around with your font. If you ungroup your text, you can then further play around with the letters and create interesting layouts that way. And again, you're not going to lose the font if you create outlines when you're done typing your text. So that's it for the text now. You can use these techniques as you work on the mood board. And now I'm going to actually start working on the new mood board. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new file. So you're going to go to File, New, click on Print because we want high quality print. We're not going to choose any of these paper presets. Instead, we're going to type in our own size that we want. So I'm going to select inches from the drop-down menu. I'm going to say 11 inches for the width. 14 inches, I'm actually going to physically type in 14 inches. For the height, I'm going to click on Portrait Orientation. It'll be just one artboard. Then I'm going to click on Advanced Options. From the drop-down menu, I'm going to select RGB. From the raster effects, I'm going to select 300 so that I have good quality printouts. And then I can click on Create. I just want to mention that there is RGB and CMYK. So RGB is for printing. Sorry, RGB is for on-screen viewing, such as computer screen, TV screen, or the phone screen. And then CMYK is for printing, because this is the color of the ink: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. In this case, I'm using RGB because if you have RGB selected, then all of the filters work. If you don't have the RGB selected, then sometimes some of the filters and effects may not work. So I'm just selecting the RGB, 300 resolution, and then I click on Create. So now I have the correct size, which is the size of your portfolio, 11 by 14. Before I begin, I'm going to go to View, Rulers, Show Rulers. So View, Rulers, Show Rulers will allow you to see the rulers on the edges of your page. And then you're going to be able to zoom in and drop off a ruler. So here is a 1/4 inch ruler on this side. Here is a 1/4 inch ruler on that side. And I recommend that you put it all around, because you will then make sure that no element is closer to the edge of paper than 1/4 inch all around. So that way when you're printing, the page doesn't get cut off. So I'm just dropping off the rulers all around my page, like so. So basically you just click and drag and then let go. So letting go of clicking and dragging will drop off the ruler in that position, and you're just going to use the rulers to make sure that the guides are dropped off in the correct area. So next I can start working on this, and definitely you're going to need your layers, because we're going to have a whole bunch of layers today. So first, go to Window, Layers to make sure your layers are displayed. Then you're going to go to File, Place. So we're going to use File, Place to bring down all of the pictures used in this tutorial. So File, Place, and then you're going to go inside of the Moodboard elements, and then you're going to click once on the Klimt Flowers JPEG. Nothing will be turned on here. And then you're going to click on Place once. Once you click on Place, you're going to see like a little preview, and then you can click once to finalize placement of this JPEG. You're going to move it to the corner. Next, we're going to go to Window Links to make sure that the image has been placed properly. So if you see a little square with a triangle and a square in it, that means the picture has been placed properly and it has been linked properly. If the picture is not linked properly, and if it's not embedded properly, then this picture may not open next time you open this Illustrator file. So it's very important that you go to Window Links and make sure that you see this icon. If you do not see it, then you can go to this button here, the menu on top, and then you can select Relink, and you have to make sure that the picture is embedded. So depending on what version you're working with, you may have slightly different situation. You might have to click on Embed button on top of your screen in some cases, but in other cases you go to Window Links to make sure that you have successfully embedded this picture. Next, I'm going to use the bounding box to squish the picture in, and this time I can just go all the way in. I don't have to really worry about my guidelines that I've put down. So I will just make it, stretch it out on the entire page. Next, I'm going to go to Effect Gallery. So first I will zoom out, select my picture using the black arrow, and then I will go to Effect, and then you're going to click on Effect Gallery, which you can see right here. So this is going to show you a little preview of your artwork, and then on the side you're going to see a lot of different folders. So if you click on each, it's going to give you a preview of what specific filters look like. So you can click on any of them and play around. You will also notice that some of them have additional options that you can change on the right side. But for me, I'm going to use the texture folder and I will click on the patchwork. I can increase the square size if I want, and I can increase or decrease the relief. So you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be exactly as mine in terms of the settings. Once you're happy with the preview, you click on OK. So here I'm done with that part. Next, I'm going to go to change the opacity and make it more transparent. So what you do is you select it with the black arrow, and then in the opacity box in the options bar, you can scroll down to around 50, and then it'll become more transparent. If you don't see the opacity box in the options bar, then you would have to go to Window Transparency, which would bring out a box where you would then be able to lower the opacity from there. Okay, so now I'm going to double click on the layer name and I'm going to call it background. And it's a good idea to always lock the layer once you're done with that. Then I'm going to create a new layer. So this new layer will be called Klimt Lady. So I'm going to double click on the name and say Klimt Lady to rename it. So in that layer, I'm going to go to File, Place. I will click on the Klimt Lady once. Nothing is turned on here. And then I will click on Place. Then I'm going to click once here. And then I will go to Command minus to zoom out. You absolutely have to press Shift and then drag in the corner to resize the picture. If you don't press Shift, you're going to distort the picture. So here I am making sure I'm pressing Shift, and then I'm resizing it using the bounding box. Again, you can see the window links. You can see that the image has been successfully embedded, so that's great. So now we're going to learn how to use a clipping mask. So the clipping mask will allow you to erase a certain portion of an image. So it can be any kind of shape used for the clipping mask as long as it's a closed shape. So here I'm going to select Ellipse tool. I will select red stroke and no fill. I'm going to make the line a little bit thicker so you guys can see it. So basically I'm going to create an ellipse shape going around her like that. And then I'm going to position it on top of the lady. And then I'm going to select both the clipping mask shape, which is on top of the picture, and the picture, which is underneath. So using the black arrow, I'm going to click and drag around both of them. And then I'm going to go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. So then this will clip the image inside of that shape. Again, this could have been any shape. I could have drawn it with the pen tool. I could have used any of the shape tools. And also it can be with or without fill, but it's easier if you have no fill so that you can see the image underneath. And the only thing you have to make sure that you're only selecting the image and the outline of the clipping mask shape. And you have to make sure that you've locked everything else so that you don't accidentally select more than that. And then it'll work. So once you're done, you can see the image size, and you can still press Shift if you want to make it bigger. Okay, so next I'm going to create a new layer. So you click on the new layer button. This is going to be called Model 1. And then in that layer, I'm going to place a JPEG called Model 1. So I'm going to go to File, Place, click on Model 1, click on Place, click. When it comes down, you're going to take the black arrow, you're going to press Shift to make it a little bit smaller, like that. And you're going to just double check the links palette to make sure that it's successfully embedded, and it is. So next we're going to be creating another clipping mask outline, but this time I'm not going to use a box tool. I'm actually going to draw my own clipping mask outline. So to do that, I'm going to use the pen tool. I will set it to no fill, and I will set it to red stroke so it's easier for us to see where I'm drawing. And I'm just going to increase the line a little bit so you guys can see better. So basically I'm going to click, or you can click and drag to create a shape around her. And this will be a closed shape. So you have to make sure that you close the shape. And I'm going to go a little bit further away from her body. And you'll see why. So when you're done, you just have to make sure that your shape is closed. And then you have to make sure that the shape is on top of the JPEG, which it is. And also make sure everything else is locked, which it is. So now using the black arrow, I'm going to click and drag around the JPEG and the outline. Both of them are selected. And then I will go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And that'll get rid of the background. So that's the same as what I did on the Klimt lady, but now I'm going to create a soft fuzzy edge around it. So to do that, you're going to go to Effect, Stylized Feather. So first select the model with the black arrow, then go to Effect, Stylize Feather. And then in the preview window, you can you can turn on the preview and see what it's going to look like. So you can go up to make the edge more feathery, or down to make it less feathery. So what I recommend for this particular picture is I recommend typing in 0.25, which is 1/4 of an inch, and then that'll give you a little bit of fuzzy edge, but not too much. So now if you zoom in and if you have a look, you can see that we have a soft fuzzy edge all around the model. So that's done, and we can now lock it. Again, you could have 0 feather effect if you want as well, so you can experiment and see what you like. Next, we're going to now create a new layer. It's going to be called Liberty, by the famous department store in London, Liberty. And then we're going to go to File, Place, to place an image called Liberty. Click, and again you can see that it's already embedded and linked. Then I will press Shift to resize it. So absolutely press Shift and click and drag to resize it. And then I'm going to zoom in and select it with the black arrow. So next, we're going to look at graphic styles. So you go to Window, Graphic Styles, to display that palette. And then you can see some of the default ones available here. If you want to load more, you would click on the Library button, and then you can go through all the different ones. I would encourage you test them out. You can apply them to text, you can apply them to any shapes or drawings, but you can also apply some of them to JPEGs as well. So really just experiment and see if there's anything you like. So I'm going to click on the Library button, go to 3D Effects, and then I'm going to choose the effect number 14, which is this one, 3D effect number 14. And I'm going to apply that to my Liberty JPEG. So first I'm going to select my JPEG with the black arrow. Then I will click once on the 3D effect number 14, and then it'll get applied. Okay, so here you can see the resulting effect. So again, play around with these. You can load lots of different effects and then see if there's any that you would like to use for your own personal mood board. Next, we're going to learn how to do an image trace function. So to do that, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it Painting. And then I will go to File, Place, to place the painting JPEG in that layer. I'm going to press Shift to make it a little bit smaller. Again, keep checking the links window to make sure that it's been embedded and linked. So first, I'm going to go to Window, Image Trace to display my options. So Window, Image Trace. And then I will be able to select my photo with a black arrow and then choose from the presets. So here you can see preset, for example, shades of gray, and then it'll trace it. You can select 3 colors and then it'll trace it. You can select 16 colors and then you can see the preview as it's traced. You can slide the bar here to change the number of colors that you see, and there's other options that you can play around with as well. So I'm going to leave it as 16 colors, and now the image has been traced. So I like doing this sometimes, especially on the background, because background sometimes can look pixely. So if you trace it, it kind of looks a little bit nicer and more interesting that way. If you now select this image with a black arrow, you can then go to Object, Image Trace, Expand. After you do that, then you will actually be able to turn this into a live paint group so that you can recolor it. So if I select it with a black arrow, I can then go to Object, Live Paint Make, and then when the bounding box changes, you know that you have created a live paint group. And then you can use the bucket to actually recolor it to some new colors. So if I double click on this green and if I select a different color, let's say red, then I will be able to click and then use live paint to recolor this artwork. So image trace is really great to experiment and try different things out with your image so that you can change it. Now we're going to look at drop shadow effect. So first I'm going to create a new layer. I will rename it as male model. And then I'm going to go to File, Place, Male Model JPEG, Place in that particular layer. I'm going to have to press Shift in order to resize it proportionally. And then I can add drop shadow effect. So to do that, I have to first select the photo with my black arrow. Then I go to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. So here I'm going to select normal mode. I'm going to click on the preview so I can see what it's going to look like, and that's going to show you what you have. So if you want to change the color, you just simply double click and select a different color. Let's say I change it to blue. I can also decrease or increase the opacity and distance of the shadow from the photo. So if I go up, it'll be further away from it. And I can also change the X and Y direction as well. Once you're happy with the preview, you click on OK. So now I'm going to be locking this layer. Next, we're going to look at the title. So for the title, we will create a new layer. So here's a new layer. I'm going to call it Title. And then I will just click once in order to add one line of text. So it's going to say Floral Fever. I'm going to just zoom in, select this text with my text tool, and go to Type, Size 72. If you want to make it bigger, you can. If you want to make it bigger than what it allows you to type in, then what you have to do is actually highlight the text and then go to Window, Type, Character. And then in the character box, you can type in a bigger number. So if I want to say 100, I can enter 100 and I can hit enter. And then it'll change it to 100 points font. The other thing that you can also do is actually just select your text and then use the bounding box and Shift to resize it as well. So either way. So I've just done my text with black because I'm going to apply a graphic style. So I will go to the library, select type effects, and then there's a whole bunch of type effects here for you to try. The one I'm going to apply here is the rainbow glow. So I clicked on the rainbow glow, and here I have it. And now I'm going to show you the envelope distort. It's going to allow me to distort this text to make it more interesting. So what you do is select it with a black arrow. You go to Object, then you scroll down to Envelope Distort, and then you select Make with Warp. Then from the drop-down window, there's different ones that you can select from, such as Fish, Arc, Bulge, different ones. But I'm going to click on the one that's called Wave. And then I can also select different horizontal and vertical distortion. You can see it changing in the preview. You can also increase or decrease the bend as well. So play around with these settings to see what you like, and then you can click OK when you're done. So there we go with the title. Next, I'm going to add my color swatches. So I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to create a new layer, call it color swatches. So color swatches. And then in this new layer, I can create one rectangle. So I will press Shift when I draw the first one. And then I'm going to go to black arrow, press Alt key to duplicate. And then if you select one of them, you can then use the eyedropper tool, click anywhere on your screen to select the target color. So I'm going to use the eyedropper, click on this painting of Klimt, select this color. Then I will use this, this swatch, use the eyedropper, click on any of the pink colors, and then lastly I'm going to use the eyedropper and select, let's say, a yellow. So I'm going to select 4 different colors, and then I can use the align function to respace them. So if you go to Window Align, that's going to display the Align box menu. And then we've used this before. You just have to make sure that the first and the last ones are where you want it. Then you select all of them with a black arrow. Then you click once on this button and once on this button, and that's going to realign and redistribute your swatches. Next, we're going to apply a zigzag effect to your swatches. So to do that, you're going to use the black arrow and select them all. So just click and drag across with the black arrow to select all 4 of them. Then you're going to go to Effect, Effect, Distort, and Transform. And then you're going to go down until you see Zigzag. So you click on the zigzag, and then the preview should be turned on so you can see what you're getting. Then you can change the size to make it bigger or smaller, and you can change the number of ridges per segment to have more or less of the ridges. When you're happy with the preview, you just click on OK, and then you're done. So the text or the color names can go in the same layer, or you can put it in a separate layer. It might be easier. When you're done, you just simply lock them. So after the color swatches, I'm going to add my buzzwords. So I'm going to create a new layer, call it buzzwords. And then here, I'm just going to use the regular text tool and type my buzzwords. So one is artistic, one is, well, I have to create a new line, so that way I'll be able to move them around. So I'm going to click for a new line and say avant-garde, and then I will click again for a new line, and I'm going to call this buzzword as colorful. So now I'm going to apply a different artistic graphic style to each word. So first I'm going to go to the graphic style library, then click on artistic effects. So here we go, here's the artistic effects, and then I can apply them. So for example, I'm asking you for the assignment to choose the 3 different ones that might work here. So basically you're going to select your word with a black arrow and then click on one of them. So I'm going to click on this one, I think this looks good. Then I'm going to click on this one and I will apply this one. Again, it doesn't have to be as mine, I just want you to go through and see what you have available. And then for this one, I can see how this would work. So I click on this and now it's applied. So now I may just want to make these words smaller, and I can then put them on my artboard. Again, it's best if you just have it in a separate layer with everything else locked so that you can easier move around your words. Again, you can refer to the original handout to see approximately where you can put these words. So here I am with my buzzwords, and then I can just lock this as well, and I can now save my artboard. So File, Save As. So this will have your family name, demo board, in the title. So family name, demo board, and then I'm going to save it as an Illustrator file. So Illustrator CC, OK. I also want to tell you that if you wanted to send this to a printer, it's great to save a PDF version of it so it'll be easier to print, because otherwise sometimes your printer may crash. So to save a PDF version of it, you would just go to File, Save As, Desktop. Then you're going to be selecting PDF format. The extension will say PDF. And then you're going to click on Save. When the box comes up, you can select High Quality Print. So that way you will be able to print your artwork. And then you click on Save PDF. And then you'll be able to open your file in Adobe Reader, and then it'll be easier to send it to your printer. However, please note for your assignment, I want you to send me the original file, meaning Adobe Illustrator file, so that way I can check your layers, etc. But here is the version that I've just saved using as a PDF, and it opened it in Acrobat Pro. The other thing that I want to show you as well is when you start working on your own original mood board, you need to either scan your images using 300 pixels per inch and save them as JPEGs, or you can just Google them or search online. So if, for example, I search for cats, then I can click on Images, and then you have to click on Tools, and then select Size, Large. So this way computer will only give you large size. So it'll tell you actually in the preview what size the images are, and then you can then download and save these images. So this one is 2000 pixels, so that would be pretty big, so this would work for me if I wanted to save it. So then I would go to Save Image As, and then you could save it on your USB or your desktop, and then you can save a whole bunch of images that you can then use on your own personal mood board. So this is the demo mood board, and then when you start creating your own mood board, I encourage you to experiment with different tools, different graphic styles, different techniques that I just showed you, and find what is most suitable and most interesting effect or graphic style or a technique that would work for your particular topic. So don't use exactly the same techniques that I have used, but rather you should experiment and explore and see what are different options available that would work well for your particular topic. That's it for today's tutorial.